Introduce yourself.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Arnav Chandrakant Bahosar. I come from Dombivli, Maharashtra, India. I stayed there up until I was 18 years old, after which I moved to college here at the University of California, Los Angeles. I'm a second year student now.
Hi, my name is Jason. I am a first year student here at UCLA. I lived for around 8 years at Guatemala.
It's Justin Nguyen. I'm from Garden Grove, California. I've been in America for my whole life, and I am Vietnamese American.
My name is Daniel. Originally, I grew up in Sacramento. I'm 18 years old. I like peanut butter sandwiches. I'm a first year at UCLA. I'm an applied math major.
When you arrived at UCLA, did you feel an instant culture shock?
Yes, indeed I did, in both in terms of personal interactions and in terms of my observations of the outside world. Felt like a different universe. The cars actually had structure, there were actual roads. It was not just dirt, it was like actual like things, cement that people like had to create, and there was no chance of getting hit by cars. And then in terms of the personal interactions, my friend was like, oh no, he came like running back to me one day and was like, oh no, I'm going to get in big trouble. I smoked marijuana outside, and then police officer saw me and he caught me, and I was just like, man, give that man like $1,000 and he'll let you go. And then he was like, no, if you give them bribes, they will get me in even more trouble. And I was just like, man, I wish it was the way in India here. And then also in my writing one class, I have to talk about my feast experience first. In feast, when they served the roti with the chicken curry, I was eating with my hands, and then as I was eating with my hands, people were around me saying like, use the fork, you cannot use your hands, you use the fork. And then I was like, no, I always eat with hands at my Auntie G's house in India. And then they're like, no, use the fork, silly Indian boy, stupid boy, use the fork. And I was like, no. So I would say yes, I feel a culture shock.
I did because even though I went to high school here, the size of this campus and like of the population was way different from my high school. Like here's like 30,000 students, over there is like around 2,000 students. So yeah, and all the different cultures overlap. So it was definitely a shock.
Instantly, because there are a lot of Asian people here. There's like the black population is minuscule, and that's what I think. Yeah, it was like compared to back home. I think back in Sacramento it was much more diverse than here, even though like it's still adequately diverse, not as diverse as other areas in California. Yeah, I think there's a good amount, like there's good representation of each Asian culture, and also there's good representation as in like there's a good amount of clubs and culture nights for each Asian culture. So I feel that each Asian culture is like well represented and well like appreciated. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There was some culture shock because there's a lot of diverse cultures. There's some white people, there's black people, there's all sorts of races. But I think that overall, I've adapted to the diversity pretty well. So.
Have you ever felt not welcomed or like an outsider because you cannot relate to anyone?
Yes, I feel unwelcomed because I have trouble remembering non-Indian people's names, and people always make fun of me for that. There's like, oh, I don't know, such bad memory, so stupid, so silly boy, so funny, so silly. And then I'm like, well, can you remember these names? And I list out some like 10 Indian kings, and then they're like, what the hell, these names are like so unusual and weird. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel, man.
Maybe at the beginning I did a little bit, but then once I found friends from my floor and everything, from different cultures, and we were diverse, that kind of faded away, but maybe just in the beginning a little bit.
Definitely. There were definitely times when I was little where I would be like ostracized because I wasn't a part of the culture. But I feel like as people grew older, everyone became more understanding that we were Americans, and then we could like understand each other's cultures. Like for me, I'm more understanding of other cultures now because I'm like slowly being more exposed to other cultures. So I think with more exposure comes more like understanding, and then so like now I no longer feel like an outsider because I like to meet more people of other cultures, other races, and I'm okay with that.
Like when I experience another culture's like traditions or their like way of life, sometimes it's difficult to like talk with them about like our cultures, sometimes. But I think it just takes like understanding like each other's cultures in order to get a better idea of how we can learn to like talk with each other and everything.
Yes, indeed. One time I was going on Bruin Walk, and then at this booth they were handing out different kinds of books, and then they gave me the book on Buddhism and on Hinduism and about India, and they were like, "Oh yeah, take this," and then they were like, "Are you Indian? Are you Indian?" And then I was like, "Yes," and then they said, oh, then you must know this guy. And I'm like, no, I don't know him, he's dead.
I mean, no, not really. Not really.
Felt attacked?
Yeah.
Well, definitely, yes, because there are some people who just aren't a fan of people who aren't like them. Like there's some groups who are just like aren't a fan of, let's say, a fan of Asians because they're not Asian, or let's say, it's just some people are just not understanding of each other. And there are definitely times in my childhood where I wasn't understood because I wasn't a part of that group, but that was okay for me because like I understood that we just had a different mindset, we had a different mentality, and then I just chose to try to separate ourselves from those type of people, type of people who aren't understanding.
Times, yeah, because sometimes it's not easy to like being stereotyped for being like smart, like having like small eyes or whatever. But yeah, sometimes you just have to deal with it and like learn to like grow with it. Racism has like its roots, but it just takes like time for people to like learn to like adapt.
Have you ever witnessed someone targeted because of their culture or race?
Yes, indeed. I have experienced, I have witnessed my younger brother Soham. He also came to America, and he's younger than me, so he is in high school right now. And I have witnessed like horrible mistreatment and racism. I saw that in his English class, he does not have very good handwriting in English because he's used to writing in the Devanagari script, right? And then all the teachers were like, oh, out of all the papers, this one has to be the most difficult to understand. Why? Because I cannot read the handwriting. And then everyone saw like, oh, ha, that is Soham, stupid boy, Indian boys, so bad handwriting, ha, failure, go back home, go to India.
No, but I've experienced people that claim to be targeted. Like for example, I've seen like some like African Americans on this campus like protesting and saying like they feel like segregated, right? But I feel like in some way it's because they segregate themselves.
Did you ever feel pressure to become acclimated?
That maybe a little bit, but by not just me like personally, but like in general, like I feel like everyone chooses to hang out with people from their own race. Like for example, like there's like Mexican frats, Mexican sororities, and like the Chinese club, and like everybody forms clubs to be with the people from their own race. So like yeah, I feel like everybody like wants to be close to the people they're familiar with.
So based on these sororities and frats that lean towards recruiting people that are just from their particular race, do you feel like this goes against the belief of the melting pot of America?
Yeah, definitely, because like I was saying, like the Mexican frats, I've noticed when I walk on Bruin like they give me a paper, and then I'm walking right next to my friend who is white, and then he doesn't get a flyer. So like there goes a point of that, and then same thing goes with the sorority, or same like with there's like this Asian frat, right? And then one day I was walking with my friend Eugene to class, and then some kid that is in our floor named Jaren gives him a flyer of the Asian frat, and because they were both Asian, right? And then he just like kind of ignored me, which I understood, right? But I feel like in that way, yeah, it does conflict with the melting pot.
Definitely. I feel like being in America, like the whole point, the American culture is that everyone is supposed to recognize each other's cultures. And then I think it's a good thing to understand each other, but then no one should be forced to like, how should I say it? No one should be forced to go out of their way to appreciate another group. Like, I feel like being an American, like slowly we're melting too much into one group, and then eventually we're gonna not hold on to our own roots. We're just gonna be Americans without our own culture, without our original culture. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes like there's this idea like the American way is like the best. Sometimes you just like have to incorporate that into your life. Like sometimes have to leave your cultural background in order to fit in with everyone else. I definitely agree that America is a melting pot. Like no matter like your background, where you came from, who you are, I think all Americans come and form a nation like under one people. You know, Americans have the same idea that they're independent people that are looking for freedom in this new country. That's what I think of America.
Do you feel like you lost touch with your roots?
No, I have not lost touch. I am on WhatsApp still. All these stupid people here use the Snapchat, Instagram, all this nonsense, bloody nonsense. I use WhatsApp. I frequently call all my relatives, all 269 of them, all my parents, my brothers, sisters, everyone. I still keep in touch. I still do prayers every night, Hindu prayers. I do the shlokas, right? I still go to feast and go well only and only eat Indian food. I still avoid eating beef and pork. I still play when people they ask me to play basketball with them or baseball. Sorry, people ask me to play baseball with them. Do not hold the bat like this. I say no. Cricket is a superior sport. And I hold the ball like this, and then no. I take the ball. I try to cut it in three into wickets. Put them behind me, and then take a cricket bat and say, okay, let's play now.
No, definitely not, because even though like the majority of people here are Asian and white, there's still like quite a few Hispanics, and I can relate to them, and I can still keep in touch with my relatives that are in Guatemala and everything. I talk to them. So yeah, and I travel over there like every year, so I definitely still have my roots ingrained.
Because I feel like, so I'm a Vietnamese American, and then I feel like I'm losing my Vietnamese because the community that I'm hanging out with, that I'm interacting with, is not a Vietnamese speaking community. And then so inevitably I'm going to be losing my ability to speak Vietnamese in exchange for English, which is the common language spoken among everyone else, yeah. And I feel like it's happening to everyone else because everyone else is losing their own original culture in order interact with one another because the only way to interact across groups is like with English in America.
Yeah. Times like at home, like I feel like I've lost my touch sometimes. Like from my Vietnamese background, like I don't incorporate like my ancient like roots or history. I don't factor it into like my everyday life, and sometimes I just kind of glance over it and like ignore it. Whereas sometimes like it's definitely important to keep in touch with it so that you remember the important things about your background.
Okay.
Do you think this is an issue we still need to address today?
Yes, this is an issue. India has how many people? 1.2 billion. America, 300 million. Therefore, the world will eventually become like either India or China as world progresses. And we should not stick to this stupid minority American culture. Actually, America is the minority. India is the majority. Yes, India will reign superior in the future. Everything will become like India in the future, so we should get used to that culture.
Definitely, but I feel like the system and the government can only do so much. Like, yeah, they still need to be they still need to fix the flaws with the racism and all that, especially in politics, with like even the president being racist. But also the people themselves have to like take action and desegregate themselves from like being like in their different like racial groups and just interact with more races, because next thing you know, you're gonna find someone from another race that has like a lot of things in common. Yeah.
But that's where the problem is, because there is no solution. Like if we did want to become more of a melting pot, where that's just in order to be more connected with each other, we're gonna have to lose our own original cultural roots. So it's like it's an exchange. It's either if we want to become closer to one another and lose our background, or keep our background and then stay separated. So it's like the American future can only go the two ways. Because I see it's going to be impossible for us in the future for everyone to be connected and know every single cultural root in every history.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I think there is an issue sometimes. Like we have difficulty like understanding each other, and like sometimes just because someone is different, like doesn't mean like we have to alienate them, you know. But it just takes like a certain like understanding, and, like see where the similarities lie, so that we can all like, you know, not have any trouble with like stereotypes or anything, and that we can be like, you know, cohesive as one people.